Want to welcome you to the next episode of the Plugged In podcast. And today we have Gaurav Bhattacharya. Gaurav is the CEO of Jeeva AI. How are you today, Gaurav?
I'm great, Mark. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's always great to be able to jump on, have a 15, 20-minute conversation, especially with things all AI. It's one of those where some people are running for the hills. They're afraid of it. They think it's going to take their jobs,
Yeah.
and then other people are embracing it and thinking, sometimes in life you either reject something or you actually embrace it and get the best out of it.
hmm Yeah, I totally agree with you, Mark. I have an investor called Jack Altman. Jack is the brother of Sam Altman, who's the CEO of OpenAI. And Jack has this really cool saying that I love, and I truly agree. He says that in order to be really successful, like ultra successful in this coming decade, right? Not like moderately successful, but if you have to be ultra successful, you're either as close to AI as possible or as far away from AI as possible. Like either you're an HVAC or you're an electrician or farming, or you are embracing AI and using it 24/7 and not trying to resist it because there's no middle path to be very successful. And I truly agree. And a lot of young people and a lot of people who are in the middle of their careers, they want to try it and they're like, it's not that as good, right? Like the code is not as good. Yeah, but it's getting better like 24/7, right? You better just learn how to use it. I think that's my stance on it.
Mm. So what is Jeeva, Gaurav,
Mm.
and what problem does it solve? Because I always think that's the premise of any business is what problem are you solving and what is it?
Yeah. Mark, the simplest way to say Jiva is we have built like an all-in-one solution, or we're trying to build for sellers to automate a lot of the manual repetitive tasks. We believe that anything in sales that's like talking, like doing discovery call, relationship building, demos, like carrying out the sales cycle, we don't think AI is anywhere close to replacing it or would never replace it because people buy from people they trust. So the part that does not include that, which is finding the right lead, finding their email, researching the cell phone number, researching the company, finding the news, listening to someone's podcast to be able to find relevant nuggets when you're about to talk to them, then writing a personalized email sequence or a personalized LinkedIn sequence and just running that like a clockwork, right? 24/7, 7 days a week while you're sleeping, it's doing the work for you. We believe AI can do that, and that's what we're doing for salespeople, sales teams all across the world. So that's what Jeeva AI is. It's a new startup, but we've grown from like almost 0 to 10,000 plus users, 0 to 5+ million in annual recurring revenue, 0 to 300 enterprise customers now just in the past 7 months from launching. So it's a year-old startup, but it's in hyper growth, and hopefully we can, be the next Salesforce or something, right? At least that's what we're aiming for. Who knows where we'll land, but big ambition there.
Mm. And is there any meaning behind the name? I'm always fascinated by names of companies.
Yeah, it truly is, Mark. So it comes from a Sanskrit word, which is called Jivan. And I think there's Latin origins to it too. And Jivan was used in like India used to have like this thing called the Mahabharata, which is kind of like they say half fiction, half reality. It's like the Game of Thrones, where it's like a big battle that took place. But in short, Jivan is used there, and it was used by Lord Krishna, and he talked about it in the sense of the circle of life. So we call it life. That's the real meaning right now. But in Sanskrit, it used to be circle of life. And I was really intrigued by this word because I thought that the way we live life and how we carry ourselves, what we do in the next decade or so, or in the next 100 years, is going to change a bunch with AI. And it's going to be like almost like I feel like there's going to be a lot of change, and then humans are going to realize that the old ways was better, and it's almost going to come back. And I don't know why I was just fascinated by this word circle of life, and I obviously didn't want to call my company circleoflife.com, so I found Jiva, and I found the domain. I found that there's not a lot of SEO competition on it, and I got it.
Lovely, yeah. And it almost sounds like it's your own like private researcher, kind of goes away, finds out personal information about your clients so that you can personalize it in a way that really says to them, "Oh, you've actually paid attention to who I am."
Mhm. That's absolutely right. Trust building is really important, right, Mark? And I feel like in the world where relationships Because obviously there's a lot of young sellers, and majority of the salespeople are maybe in their 20s, 30s now, right? Like we don't have a bunch of like 50-year-olds still selling out in the field like it used to happen. So if you don't have a bunch of relationships, the quickest way to building trust with someone is showing you're an expert. You're an expert about their business, you're an expert about the industry, and that's what AI can really help you do is like you wake up in the morning, and if I'm having a conversation with John, I know exactly where John went to school, what's happening with their company, what's happening in the industry. I know, John's pain points. I know what the CEO of the company, the recent press release they did, what are the top initiatives. All of a sudden makes me an expert. And when I talk to John, I come off as like an expert in the field, and he trusts me more. So
Mm,
that's like a huge part of selling, in my opinion. And that's kind of what we're helping. A big part of that is personal research. That's
mm.
correct.
And how did you come up with the idea, and has building Jiva impacted your own leadership style?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. It's changed a lot, Mark. And I don't know if it's the right thing or the wrong thing. Let me talk about how we came up with the idea, then I'll answer the second part of the question. But we actually pivoted into this, and so Mark, we started a company called Involve AI, and I was the CEO and founder of that company too. And it's the same company, but Mark, what we focused on was that when we started Involve AI, it was all about customer success and doing customer research. So that was the premise of the company, and that's kind of what we started. The idea was, and we were doing churn prediction analysis. So we were still using machine learning and AI, but very complex problem to solve. We couldn't find product market fit. We were really struggling. So I actually went back to my board and I said, hey, it's not working. I have some money left. I'm going to give capital back and I'm going to try something else. They asked me, what are you going to try next? And I said, we've been building this tool internally. We call it Jeeva, and we just use it for doing sales outreach and automated like lead finding and enrichment. And it's working really well. We love it. We're getting a bunch of meetings. So what we were doing is in the early days when GPT came out, we were basically just taking that to personalized emails for people. And now everybody does that. But at that time, it was really, really cool. And Mark, that was very interesting. And my board was like, hey, we believe in you enough. You should just keep going. So we decided to pivot. It was very hard, but we decided to completely move away from our first company and all the customers, and had to shut it down, which was very painful. And we went from like a large team to a really small team. I think we were close to 40, 45 people that time. We went to like 9 people, like a small group of folks. And then that's the story. So we moved away, and that's kind of how Jiva was born.
Mm,
I don't know if you've heard the Slack story. Slack is very similar. They were actually a gaming company, and they had built Slack to just like talk to themselves, right? Like talk to each other. And when the idea didn't work, they were like, "Huh, this thing we have built internally is kind of cool. Let's try that." And that's exactly what we did. On the second part, Mark, on the leadership style, I don't know if this is correct, but I've become very direct and almost like a wartime CEO, which basically means that I usually wake up, I have some ideas, I want to go implement an experiment. I have like very good feedback loops built in with the staff, with the customers, and then it's just like go time, right? We don't argue, we don't debate, we don't go into like months of planning and strategy. And if someone looks at our company, they'll be like, "What is your strategy?" We're like, "We have no strategy. We have like a game plan for this morning, this late afternoon, and early evening, and tomorrow morning. That's it. That's our strategy." So it's become the cycle times have become really short, which is very different than how I've run any business before. So it's very interesting. I don't know if that's again, like I say, don't know if that's the right approach. 10 years from now, we'll see where the puck lands. But for now, the cycle times are much faster. Like we literally are on a day by day cycle versus like, we plan for a quarter and we go execute and we strategize and we have offsite leadership offsites where we spend 3 days just having great discussions. I don't know why, but all of that is over. And I've seen a lot of AI companies operate like how I'm operating because things are moving so fast. There's so much edge in the market. Markets like you make it or you break it, right? Like it's a matter of seconds basically, right? And competition's really intense in our space right now.
mm. It almost seems because you had the balls and the courage to pivot the last company. I think when you're a visionary and you kind of know what it is that you're seeing in front of you, and then you have the courage and the history to be able to say, I sensed and saw something that the marketplace was demanding or needing, and
Hmm.
we had the courage and the balls to actually pivot and focus. And so, therefore, even if you shoot for something that actually you decide actually isn't the right target, you also have the backing of history that says, we can make this work. And I think that makes it a lot more easier to be direct, right?
Yeah, spot on, Mark. Absolutely. I agree. I think you summarized it perfectly.
How are you seeing Jeeva AI transforming the way that people access knowledge and wisdom for their own personal and professional growth?
Yeah, I think everyone should be using AI. And I feel so for Jiva AI, we have like a lot of features that are really good for just individual sellers. Obviously, as a team, we love selling these big enterprise contracts, right? Where we can get 50,000, 100,000, $500,000 deals. That makes the most sense for us, and we are excited to chase those. Personally, deep down, I love when like just new the sellers sign up with their own credit card. Like we get a bunch of like these $20, $30. Like yesterday we had $200 signups, which is like our scale package for a personal plan or like an individual plan. I love those guys, and I feel like they're like, I don't care, I'm gonna go out hunt. I don't care if my company buys into or not, and I bet they have Jiva plus ChatGPT plus a couple of other tools, which is awesome. And I feel they're going to be so successful, right? Or at least they're like going in the right direction. There's a few things that we have for individuals that make a lot of sense, Mark. Obviously, it's the normal things from finding the right emails, finding the right phone numbers, finding the right like contact information. So if you're selling into dentist offices, you could just say in natural language, find me all dentist offices in Southern California. That's my region. Find me everyone who has more than two clinics, and the AI is going to go do research, find all the numbers, front desk numbers for you, or the doctor's information for you, which is awesome. After that, there's like some really cool features that I personally love, like that we have built that you might have seen elsewhere, but we're trying to bring everything together. Like we have this email feature. Since you connect your inbox, like your Gmail or your Outlook, we can go and like read all your emails, and we can understand which one's a hot deal, which one's a lead that you might missed out on that you haven't followed up on. We'll just draft it for you. We'll remind you it's ready to go for you. We'll label it saying next best action, that hey, John, you got to make sure that these three emails go out today, right? Stuff like that. We summarize calls for you. We'll make sure that everything's in a single place based on all the follow-up you're doing. I love those features personally. It's kind of like having your own executive assistant. These are very simple things, but I think that adds a ton of value for individual sellers. But obviously, there's the normal stuff of finding leads, enriching data. If I go to a trade show, I can go and upload that list and say, hey, these were the 100 companies in the trade show. Here's the names of the people I found, but I have no idea what their emails are, what their phone numbers are, what their titles are. Go do research, go find these guys, and the AI will do that for you. Takes about a couple of hours. It'll come back and say, here's 100 people, or here's 100 companies, here's 500 people, here's everyone's emails, here's their job titles and their LinkedIn profile. Now I can do a follow-up campaign on those guys. Like, hey, it was great to see you at the trade show, or I missed seeing you. Let's connect on a coffee or something. Really good. So there's a ton of use cases like that are around like doing more pipeline development.
Mhm. Sounds interesting. It's always evolving, isn't it? And the one thing that I really see is, AI is everywhere now. How are you going to keep your company human and ethical while embracing, empathy at the very core of Jiva?
Yeah, Mark, I think it all goes down to like, are you like a missionary or a mercenary, right? And as a company, as a CEO, it has a lot to do with where do you land. And and I don't know, are we on the right side of the history or not? But I truly don't believe AI is there to replace people. There's a lot of conversations around, will AI take my jobs? Will it replace people? I'll give a background about myself. I actually grew up in a blue collar family, lost my dad to cancer. Mother was washing utensils door to door. She had a very nice blue collar job, and after like having three jobs, she found one employer that was very nice, and she was loyal, and she was there till she retired recently, and she was there with them for 45 years. And that's amazing, right? I love that. One of my personal goals is, can I build a company big enough that can impact 1 million lives? Now, what would be awesome is if I can hire 1 million people, right? Like be the next Microsoft. That would be phenomenal. I truly believe that would be really good for the world, and for my personal vision and where I see. Um, so I'm truly not a believer that AI is there to replace jobs and replace people, and it's all about cost cutting. I think it's about like making people more productive and increasing the GDP of the world. I think we haven't even tapped like so my hypothesis is like the GDP of a country is basically the number of people who are in the workforce multiplied by their productivity. Obviously, there's multiple ways of calculating it, but that's one way of saying that that's the GDP of the US, which means that we have about 150 million people in the workforce, and everyone is very productive compared to the rest of the world. So our GDP is bigger, and that's our growth rate. Imagine if you have like instead of 100 million, you have like 1 trillion people in a way, right? Like that are working towards the GDP of a country. Imagine the GDP of the world. That's kind of how I see AI going. I have the abundance mindset instead of like it's all about cost cutting, and instead of like hiring 10 people to do it, you can have one AI doing it. I almost feel like instead of hiring 10 people, why don't you hire 100 people and do 20 other things in your business that could grow even more, right? That's kind of my mentality. That's how I think about it. Right? Like let's see how the future shapes. What are your thoughts, Mark? How do you see this playing out?
I think one of the things for me is we're noticing, at least from Chat GPT, which I think, and automatically whenever people think of AI, they always think of Chat GPT. It's almost like when people think of England, they just say London, and there's a lot more to England than London, right?
Yeah.
But one of the things I'm really mindful of is people are obviously talking to AI about real heart issues, like their own mental health. It's like there's a sadness there in the sense that people are kind of having a need for almost a virtual friend at the expense of a real one. And for me, any tool, anything that's new, is to add to build in, but never to replace. So it's always embracing, technology, but also not losing that desire to connect, and actually having a researcher actually should make the human experience better, because it's just kind of gathering all the information, and then it's really how we internalize that and personalize it, which
Yeah.
can't be replaced by
Mhm.
AI, but it's about really understanding it and working with it. That's how I kind of see it.
I totally agree. Yeah, that's very real. And some of the things people are using AI for is very fascinating too, and also disturbing, right? Like, have you heard like the AI girlfriend, AI boyfriend? Like, there's a lot of young kids who have a lot of social anxiety now because they've grown in the TikTok world, right? And the Tinder world, and they can't actually go and talk to anyone. It's so interesting. I have a and I have like a cousin, I have a younger cousin, and just a funny story, but he's super active, like a very popular kid, and he goes on a lot of dates. He's about to go to college, right? So we were going out and on Starbucks, he was like, "Oh, look at this, person he really admired or." And I was like, "Why don't you go talk to her?" And he had like so much anxiety all of a sudden. And I was just thinking, wow, all these kids, they're just living in the virtual world, right? They're just not interacting with each other, which is very hard. And I don't know how that's going to affect the future generation. And that's just with social media. That's not even talking about AI. And now you add, the new generation with AI plus social media. So we don't know how that looks.
Mm. Gaurav, as we bring this into land, where do people find out more about you and Jeeva?
Yeah, totally. Mark, my email is g@jeeva.ai, jeeva.ai. Super easy. I respond to every single email. I'm also on LinkedIn, Gaurav Bhattacharya. Although, Mark, as you would say, it's a unique name, I was surprised to find there's 9 other Gaurav Bhattacharyas on LinkedIn. So if I try to match my face or search for Gaurav Jiva, I live and breathe on LinkedIn. That's kind of where at least like all the salespeople are on LinkedIn. So that's kind of where my market's at. Yeah, please add me there. Would love to talk about anything AI, anything sales related.
Gaurav, it's been great. Wish you every success.
Thank you so much, Mark. Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure being on here.